Have you ever noticed how the joy in your backyard seems to disappear the exact moment the sun slips below the horizon? Those cheerful chirps that made everything feel warm and alive just a minute ago suddenly vanish, and the bird feeders are completely empty. Most people probably never think much about it. They just assume the birds have gone to sleep. But the truth is a lot more surprising. When humans sleep, both halves of the brain shut down and rest. Birds don't have that luxury. Scientists call it unihemispheric slow wave sleep, USWS, which means one half of a bird's brain goes into deep sleep while the other half stays fully awake and alert because it has to watch out for predators at all times. One of their eyes stays open, connected to the awake side of the brain, constantly scanning the surroundings. Every so often, the two halves switch places until morning arrives. That way, both sides get some rest, but the bird never sleeps through the night the way humans do with its entire mind completely shut off. And don't think this is some made-up story. This behavior has been clearly proven in classic experiments with mallard ducks, so it's a real scientific fact. Researchers monitored 4 ducks sleeping in a row using EEG equipment. The results were incredible. The ducks on the edges of the group, the ones most exposed to predators, used about 150% more USWS than the ducks in the middle, and they always kept their open eye facing outward toward the direction where danger was most likely to come from. They weren't just sleeping, they were standing guard. This incredible ability is amazing on its own, and birds even seem to share the responsibility within the group. When a little titbird settles into a tree hollow for the night in your backyard, the very same thing is happening. It has to protect itself. It may look completely still, silent, and fast asleep, but one half of its brain is still awake, listening to the night and keeping watch. Hummingbirds, on the other hand, use a completely different strategy. A black-chinned hummingbird weighs only about 11 grams, but it has one of the fastest metabolisms of any bird. This tiny but unbelievably fast little body burns so much energy that on a cold winter night, it could use up its fat reserves in just a matter of hours. So naturally, you start wondering, how does it even survive? The answer is simple. It deliberately lowers its body temperature. In a state called torpor, hummingbirds can drop their body temperature from over 34 degrees Celsius during the day to as low as 18 to 22 degrees Celsius at night. Their heart rate falls from around 1,200 beats per minute to just 50 to 180. It's an incredible adaptation, and honestly, those numbers are hard to believe at first. As their breathing slows down, their energy use drops dramatically. Don't think of it as accidentally freezing. This is a controlled physiological shutdown that the bird actively manages. Then, when the morning light appears and the air starts to warm up, the hummingbird heats itself back up and gets ready to fly again. But it's hard not to wonder what these birds go through every night as they suddenly disappear into the darkness and quietly return with the morning without us ever realizing what's really happening. The birds that bring so much life to our backyards, the ones we never really stop to wonder about at night, are actually fighting a completely different battle during winter. Eastern bluebirds are known for being fiercely territorial during breeding season. A male will aggressively chase away any other male that comes near its nest box, and if they get within just a few feet of each other, a fight is almost guaranteed because the nest is at stake. But in winter, everything changes. Researchers in the eastern United States have documented as many as 12 to 15 bluebirds sharing a single nest box. Pretty amazing, isn't it? Birds that won't even perch within 9 meters of each other during the day end up squeezing into a tiny 15 centimeter tree cavity together at night as a small flock. When the cold becomes brutal, shared body heat becomes far more important than individual competition. On the coldest winter nights, the nest boxes and thick shrubs in your backyard aren't just places for breeding, they're essential shelters for survival. Maybe it's worth giving those birdhouses a little extra care after all. What happens in the sky at night during spring and fall is far beyond what most people could ever imagine. While you're asleep in your bed, an entire army is passing right over your house. On the busiest migration nights between late April and early May, the number of birds flying over a single spot in the eastern United States can reach into the millions. And these aren't some rare birds you've never seen before. They're the same ones you see in your backyard all the time. That wood thrush singing in your trees during summer left you last October and could be flying north from Central America right now without you even realizing it. The ruby-throated hummingbird that'll show up at your feeder in May have crossed the Gulf of Mexico just last night in one non-stop flight, about 1,450 kilometers in complete darkness without stopping once. Just think about what a 10-gram bird can do. That's why they deserve our respect. Every time I read about this stuff, I still can't get over it. During During these journeys, they find their way using Earth's magnetic field and the stars. When birds are placed in an environment where the magnetic field has been manipulated, they change their orientation accordingly. They're navigating with a compass pointed at the Earth, not the stars. In other words, no matter what you do, they'll find their way. The Cornell Lab of Ornithology's birdcast system tracks these migrations in real time using weather radar. On heavy migration nights, the radar shows a massive wave moving north. It's not rain, it's not clouds, it's billions of migrating birds. The signal is so strong that meteorologists actually had to learn how to tell it apart from rainfall. Took a few migrating birds and kept them in cages to observe them, and eventually they noticed something really interesting. On nights that normally matched their migration season, the birds would flap their wings rapidly inside the cage and cling to their perch, as if they were desperately trying to take off. Of course, they couldn't actually fly. This behavior was given the German name Zugenruhe, which basically means migratory restlessness. It's like they have a built-in feeling they just can't ignore. Even with no outside clues at all, this instinctive urge appears simply in response to changes in day length. Just thinking about how that works is pretty amazing. The ancestors of the bird visiting your backyard followed the very same routes for generations. This isn't something birds could have learned later in life. It's something they carry deep inside them. Now, let's look at something completely different. Robins living in cities and suburban areas have a surprising sensitivity to artificial light, and the reason is all those city lights. In some places, robins exposed to bright lights start singing hours before sunrise, sometimes as early as 1 or 2 in the morning. That's because artificial light triggers almost the same hormonal response in their eyes as a natural sunrise. It's not exactly the same as daylight, but it's close enough to confuse their bodies. So if you hear birds singing in a brightly lit neighborhood in the middle of the night, chances are it's a robin that never really got the sleep it needed. And that's not good for its body at all. It needs that rest. Migrating birds are also drawn toward bright city lights, making them more vulnerable to predators, causing them to crash into windows and disrupting their internal biological clocks. Unfortunately, a 2023 study published in Nature Communications found that artificial light at night is one of the strongest factors influencing where migrating birds stop along their journey. And that's really bad news because it's contributing to serious declines in bird population. Up in the middle of the night and suddenly deciding to look out your window. What you see, a dark, silent, empty backyard. What's actually happening? Hidden in the bushes, a cardinal with one half of its brain asleep while the other half is quietly watching everything around it. Inside a tree cavity, a hummingbird waiting for morning with its heart rate slowed from 1,200 beats a minute down to just 50. And maybe, if you happened to look up at just the right moment, hundreds of kilometers above your roof, thousands of birds silently migrating through the darkness, navigating by the stars without making a sound. I'm willing to bet you didn't know any of this before watching this video. So now I'm curious. Did you know about any of it? Let me know in the comments. Let's talk about it and have a chat.